So you're interested in wildlife photography? Great. Before we dive in, I'm going to ask you, what is wildlife photography? Wildlife photography is a genre of photography based on photographing and documenting various types of wildlife in their natural habitat. So why wildlife photography? For me personally, I enjoy the challenge of working with an unpredictable subject and trying to get that money shot. So, where do you start and what will you need? It all depends on your goals. What do you want to photograph? Your lens is the most important piece of gear you're going to need. It determines the quality of your image and determines how close or far you'll need to be from a subject. And keep in mind that you will get better pictures with a higher quality lens and a lower quality camera than you will with a lower quality lens and a higher quality camera. The camera I use is a Canon Rebel T7 and it's worked great for me so far. For lenses, I have two I mainly use, a telephoto and a macro. The telephoto lens I use is a Vivitar 420 to 800mm, which I found to be a really good lens to start with for photographing wildlife. The macro lens I use is a Canon EFS 18 to 55mm, which works great for photographing insects and other little things like flowers and mushrooms. So once you get down what camera and lens you're going to need, what other gear are you going to need? Some people might recommend a tripod. Personally, for wildlife photography, I don't use a tripod. It's a lot easier to just maneuver a camera with a big lens with your hands rather than try to maneuver it on a tripod. But the main things you're going to need is a camera, a lens or two, an SD card, an SD card reader, and a camera case of some sort. What about settings? For me personally, I have my camera on sports mode for photographing birds. It manages the basic settings itself and has a fast shutter speed, perfect for photographing birds in flight. It's a lot easier than manually changing my settings in between every shoot. What about composition? What's the best way to compose your subject? There's no wrong way to compose a subject, but some definitely look better than others. I prefer to keep my subjects slightly off-center, leaving a larger space in front of them where they might be looking or moving toward. But a correctly centered subject can look just as good, if not better. How should you crop a photo? Never overcrop a photo. Even though you may want your subject up close, you don't want your subject to look boxed in. Leave it some room. Overall, it looks better if you can see the habitat as well. Sometimes wide shots showing more habitat than subject can also be desirable. After you have your composition down, what about editing? I edit on Lightroom, and I typically do minimal editing, just slapping on one of my personal made presets and fixing it from there. Occasionally I'll go all out when I have a great shot and edit every little thing one at a time until I achieve the desired look. So now that you have a small idea of what to do, where do you find your subjects? Simply going for a walk is one of the greatest ways to find subjects. You never know what you're going to find. One of the best ways that I've found my subjects is completely by accident. Just going for a walk or a drive, with or without my camera, you find some interesting stuff. What if you have a specific subject you want to photograph? First, you want to know their habitat and their habits. Where are you going to find that animal? What's it going to be doing and what time of the day? I mainly photograph birds, and one of the easiest things I use to find birds is an app called eBird. It shows people's reports of different birds in different places and makes it easy to find them. And now that you have a small idea of what to do, now it's time to get out there and test your skills.